are you doing? This is Petal. Welcome to Facts and Two Cents. As you know, we are a channel that supports the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Harry, Meghan, Archie, Baby, Lily, Mama, Doria, Poola, Guy, the Chickens, and all of us here at Sussex Squad. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, everyone. So great to say hello to you guys again. This is a very late night recording, so I'll be dropping this early in the morning. I will not be in the chat. I'm going to leave the chat open, but I won't be there because I will be teaching at the time when this drops. So hopefully, you'll be able to get something out of it with all the stuff that dropped today. It's a pity I couldn't do a live because I'd love to chat with you guys live about it, but it is what it is. And so lots of news that dropped in our lap today, and it was just like, oh my gosh. I mean, we should not be shocked because again, we have been following this stuff. If you're in the squad, I'm sure you're not shocked because what we know of these people, the hypocrisy and all of that stuff happened. So last episode, we talked a little bit about some of this. This gentleman posted on Twitter about the exploits of Dan Wootton. And today, dropped smack in our lap Byline Times, which again, we've talked about Byline Times and Byline Investigates. Graham Johnson, who owns and edits, co-owns and co-edits Byline Investigates, used to work for Byline Times at first, and then they had a bit of a falling out with Peter Jukes and the guys at Byline Times, and he went off and created Byline Investigates. So this is Byline Times. Byline Times had this major exclusive today, and apparently this investigation has been going on for the last 3 months, I guess, into Dan Wootton and what is going on with him. And again, we talked a little bit about one gentleman who a couple of days ago, 3 days ago, I guess, really went on Twitter and did this long thread about Dan Wootton taken from this Private Eye article that sort of outed him a bit when he was really just burying Philip Schofield and ready to just send Philip Schofield to hell, condemnation in every single way. Yes, I mean, condemn the action, but Dan Wootton and especially Dan and Eamon Holmes kind of just like, whoa, you know. And so Private Eye kind of put him in his place, and all of a sudden, ever since the Private Eye little blurb about Dan Wootton came out, and everyone who knows Dan Wootton said, "Yep, that's Dan Wootton." Dan Wootton has been really mute about Philip Schofield. And so apparently he was in New Zealand, where he is from, for the last couple of weeks. And so when this came out, he wasn't here. He had not said anything about it. And so we were all interested in like, okay, he's coming back today, according to his news outlet and the news channel GB News. So it was, I was very interested to see what he would say about the expose that came out. And so tonight, apparently, he was on GB News, but before he went on the air, this plopped into our lap, and it's been a doozy the entire day. And again, if you're in the squad, you're not shocked, but still, it's like, whoa, dude, you are brazen, And this is some of what it says: GB News star Dan Wootton unmasked in cash for sexual images catfishing scandal. In the first part of a 3-year investigation, that's right, 3-year investigation, Dane Evans writes, and Tom Latman revealed that accounts of victims targeted by the powerful TV presenter. And again, this is from Byline Times. And this is what some of the article says. GB News star Dan Wootton unmasking cash for sexual images, catfishing scandal. GB News presenter Dan Wootton, columnist and Mail Online columnist Dan Wootton, hid behind fake online identities to trick and bribe scores of men into revealing compromising sexual material. Byline Times can reveal in the first part of a 3-year special investigation. The 40-year-old broadcaster and self-styled voice against woke culture, whose show Dan Wootton Tonight is the biggest ratings winner in the UK's fourth most watched news channel. Targeted he targeted journalists, colleagues, friends, and members of the public for the last 10 years. Byline Times has extensive evidence to show that between June 2008 and 2018, Wooten, who is gay, posed as a fictitious show business agent called Martin Branning to offer some of up to £30,000 tax free to his targets, many of whom were heterosexual men. Among them are very senior executives at Rupert Murdoch's News UK, alongside at least 6 other staff at the Sun newspaper. One with close links to News UK CEO Rebekah Brooks, friends, Facebook associates, and users of dating apps Grindr and Gaydar. I mean, this is the most brazen thing I have ever seen in my entire life. I mean, we talked last episode when the gentleman revealed on Twitter, I think his name is Alex, revealed on Twitter about what Dan Wootton did, and that his name was Martin Branning, and the gentleman was a former boyfriend of Dan Wootton, and found his travel bag hidden behind a washing machine, and opened it, finding a hard drive in there, and all on that hard drive, recounting his story a bit. On that hard drive is sexual videos, one of Dan Wootton's co-workers at the Sun, in his boyfriend secretly filmed him with secretly filmed him for Dan Wootton, and Dan Wootton paid the boyfriend for money to film his boyfriend, and they were also talking about how much money, I guess. So it was a big setup between the boyfriend and Dan. Dan basically setting up his own co-worker for blackmail, basically. And so this is going on, and it's saying not only did Dan do that, you know um the ex-boyfriend said of other people that Dan has done that to, and he found out that Dan is going by this alias called Martin Branning. And so the same Martin Branning in this article. And not only did he do that to that guy at the Sun, he did it to 6 other staff members, at least what we know of. 6 other staff members at the Sun newspaper. This is where Dan used to work. It was his co-workers. And not only did he do that, he did it to a senior executive at Rupert Murdoch's News UK. I'm telling you, you gotta be really brazen. And then not only that, he did it to a senior executive, one who is close to CEO Rebekah Brooks. Rebekah Brooks pretty much run Rupert Murdoch's, you know, crime, I call them crime enterprise, really, because of what they do to people with their newspaper. But she pretty much runs it. And then had the gall, the gumption, the audacity to do this to someone with close links to Rebekah Brooks. I'm telling you, no wonder they can't really fire this guy. No wonder, when stuff comes out about Dan Wootton, everyone runs, because I have to believe he has something on all of them. He's been doing this for 10 years. And if you can be as brazen to target a close associate to Rebekah Brooks, one of the most powerful people in the UK, even the Queen, she could give the Queen a hand, and the Queen couldn't do anything about it. Even the Queen basically had to bow to this woman. And then Wootton had the gall and the audacity to target someone close to her. I'm telling you, this is the most brazen thing. And one could only imagine. Because again, Dan worked at the News UK, which is Rupert Murdoch on. He worked at the Sun. He also worked at the Daily News before the Sun, and then now back at the Mail on Sunday, which is part of the Daily Mail. I'm sorry if I said Daily News, Daily Mail. And it is just like, that Dan knows where the bodies are buried in these so that in these news outlets, they can't do anything to him. So my thing is like, was this insurance so that anybody tries to fire him or whatever, he has stuff on them. I'm like the most, it's like, are you serious? And so I am going to add, along with, his staff members and along with, someone close to Rebecca Brooke, I'm going to add the royal family in there, the royal family and or the royal household. Because again, how did Dan Wootton get all that information about the Sussex, that private information, that completely private? How did they get out of, or then Prince Charles's computer? How did they get all that stuff? Who leaked all that stuff from Harry and Meghan to Dan Wootton, and why? And judging from this, I would I would surmise that Martin Branning had something to do with it. And maybe, I mean, again, as I said the last time, I mean, are we to expect like some kind of, sordid sex tape or something from the royal family that Dan Wootton is probably holding over there? Yet I don't have any proof of that. But judging from this, if I were to take anything from this, it's incredible, you know? And it is just, I was just like reading this thing. I was like, are you serious? So I am believing that Dan Wootton, somewhere along the line, somebody in the royal family or the royal household, I, they've been compromised in this way. And again, how did Dan Wootton? And again, we remember he paid $4,000 to Christian, whatever. I almost said Christian Grey. I think that was the guy from, what is it, that Shades of Grey movie or something like that. Christian Jones, you know, he paid Christian Jones' boyfriend, um, Callum Stevens, I guess his name was, $4,000 for the apparent, according to Byline Investigates, $4,000 for information on the Sussexes. How did he get Callum to do that? Was Callum part of the team that working for Dan? Was there some kind of blackmail there in some way to get that information? You know, and it's a mind blowing that he for 10 years he's been targeting people, his co-workers, his friends, even the public, doing this, calling people, blackmailing people, you know, soliciting all these sexual things from people. I mean, it is just I'm gonna post a link to the article. It is sick what has been happening here, and a little bit more about it. It says two of the targets made criminal complaints to Scotland Yard without knowing the real identity of their tormentor. With detectives aware of the activities of Brannan, whose name is a portner of EastEnders character Martin Fowler and Max Branning. So he took Martin and Branning from these two characters and put them together and formed Max Branning. Since 2019, our journalists, these are just clips from the article, it says, our journalists handed a 28-page dossier of evidence to the Metropolitan Police for investigation on 20th of June 2023, last month. However, last week, criminal claims started to emerge. Last week, criminal claims started to emerge on social media, with the tweet rapidly attracting more than 18 million views, and that's the same one we talked about in the last episode. Now is attracting over 18 million views, causing Wootton to trend on Twitter for several days. So I'm going to move myself, and so I can read the rest of this. Let's just move myself out of the way. There we go. Yeah. So as a result, this paper is today publishing some details of our findings. We have identified 5 co-conspirators along with a representative group of around a dozen victims. However, sources suggest the true figure extends to many, many more men. And it's just like he has 5 co-conspirators. part, partner up with him to do this to men, and a lot of them are heterosexual men. Is Callum Stevens one of those people? Well, he paid him that 4,000 pounds for information on the Sussexes. Is he one of the people working for Dan Wootton? You know, it is unbelievable. And they said they have been able to, identify five of his victims. They didn't name the victims because obviously they want to protect their privacy unless the victims decide to come out themselves. I'm sorry, they identified five co-conspirators with him and 12 people who are victims of this. And as they said, I'm sure there were a lot more men involved in this. A lot more men who have been victimized by Dan Wootton / Max Branning. It is unbelievable, and as it says, Byline Times handed over a 28-page dossier to the police, the Metropolitan Police. Let's see if the police do anything, because as we read, before, this is very interesting. And this is a little bit about the Metropolitan Police. It says, we talked about the Metropolitan Police last episode, because I was looking at Hugh Edwards, who was just a week ago, he was all over the news as being accused of soliciting and paying a minor, a teenager, I guess, for explicit photos. Now he's supposedly in treatment for mental health issues. They talk about going to the, it was reported to the police. Nothing was, the police is like, oh, there's no criminal activity. We talked about Dan Wootton, the same thing from the last episode. Guy's like, yeah, Alex. Alex is like, I reported it. And it's like, the police, there's nothing happened. We talked about Prince Andrew. That whole thing, they refused to reopen the case to see if what Virginia said was true. The Metropolitan Police refused to open it. And so I was asking about that. I was talking about that. Like, these powerful men, stuff is reported to the police and they're not doing anything. So here's this again from the same article. It says, it was all pretty much always, this is one of his victims, Dan Wootton / Max Brannon victims. It says, it was all pretty much always the same. 20 to 30 pounds for naked pictures. Aren't you intrigued about who I am? This sort of stuff, right? He said, adding that it was driving him insane. He ultimately provoked him to go to the police, who sent a detective to his home to take a statement in 2019. We are in 2023. Nothing has happened since 2019. Byline Times has put the content of this story in its entirety to GB News Mail and the Metropolitan Police. So GB News knows it, the Mail Online knows it, and the Metropolitan Police. Let's see if the Metropolitan Police does anything, because Alex Troops, who a few days ago is the one that put all that long thread about Dan Wootton and being violated by him by basically being hacked. Dan Wootton had access to his password that he did not give him permission to have, that he found that his emails was being hacked basically from the News of the World, News UK's office where Dan worked, that Dan had access to his emails that he was not given permission to have, and Alex said he took all that stuff to the police about what Dan did. And I'll put a link to it in the show notes. But this is Alex talking about going to the police, going to Metropolitan Police. He says, since 2020, I have personally spoken to the police about some incredibly serious allegations against Dan. Nothing came of it. But I shared details of everything I know, and I know others have spoken to the Met about things he has done. And so far, it has gone nowhere. And that seems to be the pattern. They go to the police and it goes nowhere. What does Dan Wootton have on members of the police department? What relationship does Dan Wootton have with the Metropolitan Police Department? That they could be telling them all this stuff and nothing happens. Um, this is Kev Sutherland. After Alex put out his thread, Kev over the weekend wrote this, I think it's like 4 pages of just this allegation against Dan Wootton about what Dan Wootton did to him. And Kev laid it out. He did not hide. He had, just like Alex, Dan did not, Kev did not hide his name, at least. His name was something else when he was younger. He changed it to Kev Sutherland. And he didn't hide his name. He didn't hide his past. He has a very sick past. He has a very troubled past. He is, basically part of it, he should be in jail, But he's like, you know what? And he laid out his past. So nobody could blackmail him, said, oh, see, at least somebody tried today. And he's like, dude, he already said those things. He didn't hide his past. He didn't hide the mistakes he made in his life. He didn't hide the things that he did in his life. But his thing was, my thing is, look, at the end of the day, you could try to discredit me all you want, but at least that's what he said. That's one thing that remains. Dan Wootton is a rapist, and that is not going to change. He is not hiding. He just laid it out, and this is some of what Kevin said a couple of days ago. I'm going to move my brand from the top if you are new here. And if you haven't, go ahead and subscribe. Click the notification bell so you know when we drop a video. Please like and share the video. So if you're able, please join the 2 Cents Crew. That would be awesome as well. We'll put these back in the end, and I will move my banner so I can read properly. There we go. And we'll put them back in the end. But this is some of what Kevin Sunderland said. He says, Saturday, the 9th of November 2014 is a date that changed my life forever. This was the date I attended the MTV Music Awards in Glasgow. It was an evening that should have forever lasting great memories of a really enjoyable night, but that was not to be. And these are clips from his post. He says, that night I met Dan Wootton. That was the night he first met the person he already knew, myself. At that point in my life, I was working as an escort, something I genuinely had to do at the moment in time to survive. And the agony of that, and having to disclose this is incredibly painful because I know exactly that is viewed by certain judgmental people out there. This can easily be seen as a quick way to try and instantly discredit someone. And so he laid out his past, he laid out all the stuff he did, he just put it out there, all his junk. But with that said, he goes on to say, this dangerous man, Dan Wootton, drugged and aggressively raped me in the most degrading way, calling me a worthless, nameless piece of ass. I want to make it clear that Dan came to my hotel room door and used his knowledge to gain entry into my room. Dan had, it seemed, researched this guy and knew who he was. And he used that to gain entry into his room. And Kev is saying, this is what he did to me. He drugged and raped me in an aggressively raped him in the most degrading way. Kevin goes on to say, as you can see in yellow, I reported all this to the police back in 2021, and still absolutely nothing has been done about it. Again, 2019, the gentleman, I guess he's from the Sun, reported to the reported to the police about Dan. He reported to the police about being pestered by Dan for adult photograph and all of those things. 2019. Here is Kev saying, 2 years later, in 2021, he reported all this to the police. Nothing was done. And it's really interesting with all of these details. And again, I'll put the link in the show notes. So and I also put it in our community page so you can go ahead and read it. It is a doozy, but it's very interesting with all of this is that they constantly are going to the police department and the police has done nothing about it. And so as I saw that, when I first started, looking and seeing the thread by Alex, this also a thread by Kev, talking about what Dan Wootton did to them, and the description of what he did to them sort of ring a bell, because it, for me, when I pay attention to things, a lot of things could go by me, but one of the things I usually pay attention to is patterns. When I see a pattern, it's like, there's something up here. And a couple of months ago, or at least a month and a half ago, I did this episode called Prince Harry versus the Daily Mail, the Only Reliable Witness. And this is Kevin Burrs, and this is a story. This was an episode about Kevin Burrs having, given a witness statement and to support Harry's case against the Mail on Sunday, and then rescinding it, claiming he didn't do it, and all of a sudden, and then twisted and turned, and then switched to the Daily Mail side, where he's claiming now that they never gave him any. He never gave any witness statement against the Daily Mail. And so I did this episode. And part of the thing that I learned in looking at a lot of the tweets and stuff from Kevin Burrs is that when Kevin Burrs switched parties and left, Harry's team to go and now support the Daily Mail, is that when he did that, is he started tweeting about this guy, Levi Davis. And Levi Davis was this former X Factor, and we talked about this in this episode, former X Factor contestant. He was also a rugby player. And he started tweeting about it, and like the family hired him to go and to try to find Levi, because Levi disappeared. All of a sudden disappeared. Nobody knows if he's dead or alive. People are saying he's dead, whatever. But he disappeared. And so finding out things about Levi Davis, it was just like, wait a minute, there's a lot going on here. And finding out what happened to him and the lead up to his disappearance kind of ring a bell. When I remembered what happened to Levi and all the stuff that is happening now, it's like, something is up here. Because one of the things that happened is when they started looking, the police and private investigators and stuff started looking for Levi when he disappeared, Gavin Burrs all of a sudden decided to offer his services to the Levi family, Levi Davis's family, to go and find Levi. And Gavin sort of kept throwing all these crazy different scenarios out as to why Levi disappeared, including gangs, including the mafia, and all of this crazy stuff. And one of the things I noticed is a lot of his stuff ended up in the Daily Mail, especially. The other outlets covered it as well, but the Daily Mail. And always quoting him and, quoting his name and giving him this information came from, Gavin Burrs. So Gavin was having his moments there in the Daily Mail. And then after a little bit, the family kicked him off because he started saying things that was just like, was not beneficial to the family at all. And it wasn't beneficial to the case. So the family finally asked him to leave. The family finally asked him to be like, no, the police will take it from here. And ever since Gavin Burrs was asked to leave the case, I have not seen one article from the Daily Mail ever since. And one of the things that I learned about Levi Davis is that, with all the stuff that was going on in his life, he was, blackmailed. And we're going to hear a little bit from Levi in a minute. With it being blackmailed and, and all of these things that are happening to him, it was just very interesting that, again, with all of those things that was happening to him, and him trying to talk about it and trying to alert people as what was going on in his life, it was very interesting to me that he chose to talk about, one of them was coming out as gay and all of that stuff, that he chose to do that with the Daily Mail. And I was questioning that. I mean, I was like, if your life is falling apart, like, Levi was falling apart at the time, would you choose the Daily Mail? The Daily Mail, I mean, Levi is a black man. Would you choose the Daily Mail to, tell your most personal stories to? And, I know the UK people have a different thought and think differently about their tabloids, especially the Daily Mail and the Sun. But I don't know that a black man would go and spill his guts to the Daily Mail. But that's what happened. They got this exclusive from Levi and all of that stuff. And it was just like, that's interesting. Yeah, that's weird. How did they come across that? How did they come across that stuff at all? And so I was questioning all of that. And then, again, nobody knows what happened to Levi. Nobody knew what happened to him. And then all of a sudden, during this whole investigation, Gavin Burrows claimed, he came up upon this tape for Levi. Apparently, Levi made a tape and posted on Instagram, and then it was deleted. And then Gavin apparently did an FOI, which is, when you wanted to find something and you want the government to be able to give it to you, Freedom of Information Act, he basically filed that. And he was able to obtain the video that was, uploaded and then deleted not soon afterwards, and not long before Levi disappeared. And on this video, and I'm gonna play I'm gonna play some of this video, but this is a little bit of, this is when I spoke about all of this about a month and a half ago, this is what I was talking about. So you might remember this. It says, "My name is Levi Davis and my life is in danger. Chilling footage recorded by missing X Factor star days before he vanished in Spain. Days before he vanished in Spain emerges." And again, Gavin Burrows was the one who got the tape, and who got the exclusive? The Daily Mail. And it was for me, I was just like, there was so many things that I was just like, very interesting. Again, why would Levi choose the Daily Mail? First of all, to talk about his private life and coming out and all of those things. Why would he choose the Daily Mail? And then this investigator who, for some reason, Daily Mail always getting his quotes, he gave them the exclusive with the tape. The recording of Levi Davis, talking about what was going on in his life. And so this is what we were talking about, part of the episode that I did about a month ago. We were talking about the same thing. And this is the Daily Mail. Not only had the footage, but then they did obviously an exclusive not interview, but it's basically an exclusive story about it. "My name is Levi Davis. My life is in danger." Chilling footage recorded by the missing X Factor star days before he vanished in Spain. It says, former rugby player missing on October 29th in Barcelona. He posted a clip explaining he was being blackmailed, and it was quickly deleted. Mail Online obtained the full clip of Davis's plea for help. And I'm going to include this in our show notes. Normally, I don't use the Daily Mail, but that's where they put the exclusive. That's where Gavin Burrows put the exclusive. And so this is some of what Levi said about his life and what happened to him. And the reason, and hopefully you see the reason why I, sort of started tweeting about Levi today. But all the stuff happened with Dan Wootton, something rang a bell. And this is some of what Levi Davis said happened to him.
Individual, who I will not name, we began a relationship which formed a friendship, which formed was formed through music. Many times we had met, but on the last occasion, I was drugged and I was blackmailed. After I asked them for help, after I believed I was being filmed, doing sexual acts after I was drugged, which many would call rape. And by law, we would call rape. After this, and a lack of support, I was not myself. After this, and a lack of support, I was not myself. I was searching for belonging. I was searching for help. I went to the police and I asked them if they could help me. I did not understand the full picture at that time. All I knew is something was happening to me. Because after I was hooked on drugs, and after I believe what I believe to be, have been filmed on the dark web, and videos of me in compromising positions, and the blackmail that followed me. The information that I gave to the police went directly back to these individuals. And I understand that the police are good people. It's full of good people trying to do their job. But there is also a fact that there is a large amount of police corruption. And the only way that these people would have had access to my private interviews with the police is through it being leaked. They also, to my knowledge, had access to my medical records, as they have reiterated things that only I have had conversations with the NHS. I was gaslit into thinking that I had psychosis, when many of the things I said are actually true.
And that is some of what Levi Davis had to say. And it's very interesting because when I talked about it the last time, a lot of what Levi said rang a bell with how the British tabloids operate. Like one of the things I was saying is that Levi Davis, being an X Factor contestant and a rugby player, he was the perfect person for tabloid fodder. The perfect person for the tabloid to come and destroy his life and use for fodder. And I said back then, with all, again, how exactly did the Daily Mail get this interview? And one of the things I was saying is that if I was Levi Davis's family, the first place I would look when it comes to the sexual blackmail would be the tabloids. The first place in the tabloids I would look would be the Daily Mail. Now, I hadn't known any of the things with Dan Wootton. Dan Wootton does work at the Daily Mail. He works at the Mail on Sunday, and which is part of the Daily Mail family. Um, that wasn't even on my mind when I was just thinking of Ephraim, whatever his last name is, who got that interview with Levi Davis. Like, how did he get that interview? So that was my thing back then. It's like, a lot of the things what he talked about going to the police and all the stuff that he told the police leaked right back to the person who was blackmailing him. That these person that he said the only way they could have gotten his personal interview with from the police, it's if it was leaked. They got his medical records, and then there was the blackmail, the gaslighting. All of those are red flags with how the British tabloid work. All of those is exactly what they would do. The hacking, the blagging, the whole bit, the blackmail, the rape, all of it. Again, look at what Martin Browning, aka Dan Wootton, was accused of. Very, very similar things to here. Kev Sutherland talked about being brutally, being drugged and brutally raped. The same thing, the same pattern, the same pattern about being gaslit, and it's just like all the things that basically um, Levi, and I'm going to put the link to the video so you can watch a whole 15-minute video of what he was saying happened to him, about desperately trying to find evidence to prove what was happening to him and how it destroyed his life. Pretty soon after this, Levi Davis has been missing and never seen. Nobody knows if he's alive or dead. Same thing happening. Again, I don't know if this is linked to Dan Wootton. I don't know if this is linked to AKA, Max Brannon. I don't know. Martin Brannon, I don't know if this is linked. But the patterns are the same. The things that he went through are very similar to what Kevin went through and what Alex discovered. Very similar. The patterns are there. So, and again, it's funny that I was saying before that if I was Levi's family, when it comes to the sexual blackmail that he went through before he disappeared, I would look at the tabloids and especially start with the Daily Mail. That's what I said then, and that's what I believe now. And again, I don't have any evidence that it's connected to him, but the patterns keep jumping out. The same pattern. Would I be shocked if this connected? No, I wouldn't. Would I be shocked if that's who blackmailed Levi Davis? I know I wouldn't. And again, the same thing. He went to the police department, and instead of helping him, they didn't. They leaked it back to whomever it was that blackmailed him. And not only was that leaked, his medical records was leaked. Somebody blagged his medical records. We've been talking about the tabloids. Prince Harry has been in courts talking, and along with the hundreds of people that are suing the Mail, the Daily Mail, and it's brother and sister papers, the Mirror and the Sun for this exact thing. Blogging, hacking phones, blogging information, private information from hospitals, all of this stuff. This is what they've been doing. And again, going back to Alex, Dan Wootton's former boyfriend, who talked about Dan Wootton having access to his social media, all his social media, and accessing his emails without permission. He didn't have permission or he didn't have any permission to have his passwords, and he had no permission to hack into his private email. But yet, his emails was being hacked into at News UK, which owns the Sun and other entities, Rupert Murdoch outlets. Same pattern. Same pattern. And then they, threatened, and the same pattern. They're threatened, blackmail, gaslit, all of those things to make sure that they are silent. Same patterns. And so, again, if I was Levi Davis's family, I would look at the tabloids. That would be my starting point to figure out what happened to my son, my cousin, my relative. That would be where I'd start off, and specifically start at the Daily Mail. It is really, really sick. Again, I don't have any evidence that it's connected, but I cannot look away from the fact that it's so similar. I can't look away from it. So I'm hoping that the police department investigate. Would I be shocked if what some, on those secret tapes or whatever Dan Wootton, aka Martin Brannon, has, that they find Levi Davis? I wouldn't be surprised at all. Even though I have no evidence that anything, that was a part of that. But again, the similarities are there. Anyways, it is very, very, very interesting. And, it's so funny. Today I was tweeting about it, and the same thing is like, is Levi Davis sexual blackmail connected to Martin Brannon, aka or Dan Wootton? I don't know. No evidence. I have no evidence now, but the similarities are there. Like Martin Brannon / Dan Wootton, other alleged victims like Alex and Kev, Levi said he went to the police for help, but they did nothing. And I shared a link of the video, Levi's video again. All of these men going to the police since 2019 about Dan Wootton. At least that's as far as we know. Who knows how much earlier other people reported this. And still the police have done nothing. My question is, what does Dan Wootton have on the police, or some officer in the police department, or some high-ranking official, since he's been doing this for 10 years? What does he have on them that they are just brushing aside people's complaints and not doing anything about it? What does Dan Wootton have on them? As with the royal household or family, what does he have on them? Very, very interesting. Anyways, moving on. We will see. I mean, that Byline Times things came out today, so we will see tomorrow what the headlines are. Will the other news outlets pick it up? I saw some reporters on Twitter tweeting about it. Will they pick it up? Will other news outlets, so-called legit outlets in the UK, pick this up and speak and speak out about it? The way they did with Schofield and Hugh Edwards? Will they? We will see. Hardeep Matharu tweeted this, and I love that because this is one of the things that royal reporters are always closing. They're always quoting, including Camilla Tominey. This is like her thing. We always said without fear or favor. That's how they claim to report, but we know that's a lie because they always do it with favor. Hardeep is like, well, we've always said without fear or favor. So there you go. They're reporting on Dan. Without fear of, because he's very litigious. That's why a lot of people don't, out him or whatever, or taking this long. He will take you to court in a second. This is Alex and this is Kev. These are the two men who, posted long threads, etc., on Twitter, detailing what Dan Wootton did to them, or what is alleged to have done to them. This is them. When the article from Byline came out, Alex tweeted, Dan Wootton accused Carol Voters of spreading disinformation about him this week. On air just now. That's some chutzpah. The one thing about these two men, Kev and Alex, they're not hiding and they're not running. They're like, this ends today. This ends right now. We are not running. And so Kev tweeted, let the floodgates open. They are ready. They are not backing down from Dan Wootton. And one of the things, Byline Times, obviously contacted Dan Wootton's employers and everything like that, Dan Wootton has yet to officially, and his people has yet to officially comment or give a statement. Byline investigate notes that he has not, actually he denied, he fully unequivocally denied any of this, although they wouldn't officially put it on paper. You know, it's like, no, I'm innocent. But the thing that they have not denied was that he was Martin Branham. They haven't denied any of that. So we'll see. We'll see what the news outlets would be doing tomorrow and saying tomorrow. But again, Alex and Kev are not backing down. Very interesting. GB News, people are like contacting GB News about Dan Wootton. Again, this has been going on since last week. And so people are wondering, would Dan Wootton be there? So this guy, Jeremy, I guess, emailed or however, GB News team. And this is what they said. Thank you for raising this. For legal reasons, we're unable to comment, but you might find this article helpful. Politicare posted this article today, basically slamming Kev and slamming his past. And it's so funny watching the comments on that because just about everybody is cluing Politicare in is that Kev already said that. We already know that. Kev laid it out in his post about his past. So nothing they can do can, change that because Kev has already put it out there. And so GB News goes on to say Dan is back with his holiday and will present his show as usual tonight. In the meantime, I'd like to thank you for watching GB News. Your contribution and support is most appreciated. He talks about joining, joining their community, etc., etc., etc. So according to GB News, Dan Wootton is going to be on, and he was on his show, obviously saying nothing about this. So who knows when he will decide to speak up about it? Who knows? But it's very interesting that, and everyone is like, oh my gosh, he has a lot of nerve to be going back on the air after all this stuff that's been revealed. So we'll see tomorrow just how the press will report this, especially the fact that a lot of the mainstream ones didn't get the exclusive, but GB News, but Byline Times got it. It'll be very interesting to see. Will they condemn Dan Wootton? Will they cancel him? I mean, there are a lot of options, but we'll see. We will see what they will do. And if you think, and if you think, as I was saying before, it takes a lot of chutzpah for Dan Wootton to be trying to blackmail someone close to Rebecca Brooks because of all the power she has. Well, Dan Wootton and GB News, which is the fourth rank, this ragtag bunch of people, now is the fourth most watched news outlet in the UK, with Dan Wootton leading the charge. Well, before the Guardian posted this article, before they deleted it, because if you go look for it now, you can see the article in the bottom there. If you click that link, they deleted the article. But this is what the article says. Tory MP in charge of scrutinizing British media hosted drinks event for GB News. That's right. She's supposed to be monitoring them. But instead, she's throwing a drink party. It says, in a sign of GB News' growing influence over right-wing politics in the UK, the summer drinks event was attended by the Home Secretary Suella Braverman and her predecessor in the post, Priti Patel. According to Politico, other MPs in attendance include Chris Heaton, Mark Francois, Graham Brady, Transit Singh, Desi, and Joe Gideon. They were joined by GB News presenters, including Dan Wootton. So this woman is supposed to be scrutinizing the press, supposed to be basically watching over them, making sure they're not breaking the rules or any of those things. Instead, she's hosting a drink party for some of them. It's amazing. So if you think anything is going to change, nah, not with these people. Unbelievable. And if you think that's bad, and again, this woman is, again, MP. She's a Tory MP, a member of parliament. And if you think that was bad, just like Susan Hall AM. Great to see Dan Wootton back on the screens tonight. I mean, never mind the fact that all that stuff that was exposed today. Susan Hall is excited Dan is back on the air. And this Susan run is this Susan is to be a Conservative Party candidate for Mayor of London. So if you want to know where Dan Wootton get his chutzpah, these are the relationships he has. Very powerful people in this corner. Because they know, it's like, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. Unbelievable. An MP after what was exposed about Dan Wootton today. Even before, why would you do this? You're supposed. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Anyway, so if you think reform is coming for the press because of this, not with these people around. Definitely not with these people around. Anyways, look at what was trending today. Martin Branning trending with Dan Wootton exposed. And also right above the Taliban. I had to laugh when I saw that. I'm like, these people were supporting the Taliban. These people, I remember when Prince Harry's book came out, they were all up in the Taliban. Now they're trending. Martin Branning with Dan Wootton exposed is trending right ahead of the Taliban. And it's good to see Byline Times coming, in at number 11 trending. Byline Times doing their thing, exposing this. I look forward to seeing their other articles about this, but it is absolutely unbelievable. Anyways, that's it. That's it, guys. It just really, I'm telling you. You think of all the things Dan Wootton has done and the way how he goes after people. And it is unbelievable that he has this in his past, that he has this in his life, and yet he just look at what he's trying to do. He is just used to for 10 years blackmailing everybody, and I think that's why he hates Harry and Meghan, because he can't blackmail them. They won't allow him. He cannot have them, and he cannot control them, and that's why he hates them. And that's why he does everything in his power just about every night to destroy them. So, anyways, that's it, guys. That's all I got. Thank you so much for awesome moderators who, hopefully, if they're in the chat tomorrow, thank you so much in advance. Lydia Church Nelly, Karen M, Cookies and Cream and Black Cookies and Cream and Black Queen. Thank you so much. Thank you to our awesome 2 Cents crew who support the channel monthly, and also our amazing Gold Star supporters who support in the chat, whether it's super thanks, super stickers, all of it, donation via there or via PayPal or Cash App. Thank you all so much. Thank you for all the support you give. I appreciate it. And so, anyway, so that until the next time, hopefully the next time is alive, I will see you guys. In the meantime, I will post whatever else that they're dropping about Dan Wootton. Have a great night, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.